If you're anything like me, you woke up this morning to find out that we've had a little bit of an economic downturn. Now, hopefully you all know by now, that globally stock markets have really taken a hit. And so this is not just America, this is not an American thing. This is kind of a global thing. Now, I know there's been a lot of fear, there's been a lot of other things around it. But there's some important things I kind of want to cover. Some things that we need to all make sure that we remember in these sorts of situations. Now, first thing I just want to take a look at, late last week, we had this article from CNN where the job numbers came out. And unsurprisingly, at least to me and all of you, the numbers are a little bit weaker than we kind of thought they were. So on CNN, we have this article, markets end the day sharply lower after weak jobs report ignites fear of slowing economy. Fear took hold on Wall Street on Friday after the latest jobs report fell dramatically short of expectations. The U.S. economy added just 114,000 jobs in July, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported Friday. That is significantly worse than predicted and underscores recent fears that the job market is slowing too quickly and could trigger a recession. So yeah, this article came out last week, and it's very important as job hunters, as we are out looking for work, as we're trying to support ourselves and our family, we are trying to do the best that we can. And this is something that we have to be very mindful of, is we have to trust ourselves. Not just what we're told in the media or by our governments. We have to trust ourselves. And that what we're seeing in the world around us, we have to make that determination of whether it matches with what we're being told matches the reality. And so if we go to this page here, and we talk about CNN, and granted, things are changing every minute. So even as I publish this YouTube video, this is actually probably going to be a little outdated. But here we have global stock markets plunge, and this happened earlier today, but there has been some sort of recovery that has already begun. People buying the dip, that sort of thing. And this is important. Now, it's not because this is good or bad or that this is the end of society or anything like that, but we have a weak economy. The job market is slowing down. Jobs are difficult to find. So this is definitely something that we have to watch out for. Again, we're not a finance channel. We don't really talk about that sort of thing, but it is something that we need to take into consideration, that we do need to be aware of. So as we can see, if we kind of look at, just very general stock market information, we can kind of see, So we can kind of see that we took a little bit of a drop today. And, we have the slow recovery that's occurring. One of the things that I want you to be aware of, and I expect this to happen in my lifetime, is at some point we're going to be faced with the end of the U.S. dollar and the rollout of digital currency. When I worked as a software developer at a bank, we talked about it. It was talked about that, this has been about 3 years ago now, where there's a lot of excitement and a lot of pride that our bank had been part of the development of the new U.S. digital currency. And at first, you might think, well, that's just crazy talk. That isn't actually going to happen, and maybe it won't. It might not. I know there have been some presidential candidates who have said they're not going to do that. I think Trump was one of them. We've had some other candidates that have dropped out of the race who have said that they won't do a digital currency. But let's take a look at... So let's take a look at this article here. And so this is one that rolled out a few years ago. This was in 2022. And, not to get too deep into it, it just says the U.S. dollar could go digital. Here's what you need to know. And it's an article that kind of lays out some very generic concepts about the idea of a digital currency in America. And so if you don't think that this is a reality, I mean, they're prepping us for it right here. I mean, if you think about it, they're not just going to one day roll out with a digital currency. They're not just going to go, oh, you don't get to have your dollar anymore. No. what I expect to happen sometime in my lifetime is that at some point, the economy, we're going to have a big crash day like today. And it's going to be so bad that it's going to turn and it's going to create a lot of fear. And when that fear gets generated, people in general will adopt about anything that you give them. And so that's one thing that we need to be keeping into consideration as we're moving forward, is that a stock market drop, a slow economy, people having a hard time finding a job, money's going to be tight, people are going to be afraid, people are going to have a hard time buying food, people are going to have a hard time paying the rent. We're already in that situation. This sets us up perfectly for us being in a situation to more likely adopt something like a federal digital currency. And so if we look for more evidence that maybe we're being prepared for the idea that things are falling apart, you look no further than CNN to bring it to us. So, they have this article here, 3 reasons to worry about July's week jobs report, and 1 reason not to panic. And they talk about the weak jobs report. And okay, so right here, they even have a video about it, about the weak job market and inflation worries. So we're being prepared. We're being prepared for something that we're going to have no choice. We're not going to have a choice because things are going to be so weak and so bad, there's not anything we can do about it. Now again, I brought this up many times before. With the fewer number of companies that are out there, it means the fewer job opportunities, and more importantly, the fewer opportunities for good jobs. Because I like to talk about working for a small business because I think it's the best opportunity for people who are really looking to build a career. However, if you work for a small company, it is not quite as stable as working for a large company. And so there are some risks associated with that. But when we don't have enough small businesses to provide these great opportunities, like in marketing or sales or whatever it is, people don't get a chance to learn and grow. And so I think it's one of those things that we really have to be concerned about. We really have to be concerned about. We're seeing a lot of this fear-based stuff on CNN. A lot of things to make us afraid, to be afraid. And it's something that we need to be mindful of. Because an afraid populace is a controllable populace. And if you're afraid and people in your community are afraid, you're more likely to adopt any damn thing that somebody rolls out with. They say, well, here's the solution. Let's have a federal digital currency. And so again, we look at articles like this from U.S. News about fears of World War III. It's everywhere. And so between the jobs slowing down, fears of World War III, fewer companies that are operating, fewer job opportunities, a drop in the stock market, all these things add to the fear in our culture, and sets us and primes us to adopt things that may have catastrophic impacts on our futures. Now, these are things that we all need to be talking about, and we need to be aware of. We need to stay calm and be rational. Stay calm and understand that whatever the solution is, whatever the first solution is that's proposed to us through the media, is more likely than not, is just not going to be the right solution. And we dealt with this during COVID, where they said, oh, well, I know we'll come up with a vaccine that'll save everybody. And there were a lot of articles about people are going to die over the winter, and we should throw people in camps who refuse to take the vaccine. And there was a lot of fear. People don't make decisions like that unless they are afraid. People don't think that way unless they're truly afraid. And so is it all political? Is it all just one big game? So we need to be watching out for this. The fear. Using fear as the tool to control us. And at this point, I don't feel like it's hyperbolic to say We're definitely in some interesting times. And whenever interesting times happen, if things are interesting, super interesting, there has to be something equally interesting to counteract it. And so this is either going to be a huge economic collapse, or maybe an attempt to avoid the collapse by having a world war. There's going to be something that suppresses, something that comes out of this. Because we're not going to continue to have one aftershock after another and not ever have the big earthquake. It's not going to happen. We have to be prepared. So in our communities, make sure you know who the people are who are around you. Make sure you are like-minded. Make sure you know what you have in storage and supply. Do you guys remember the toilet paper scare when we were all afraid that we would never have toilet paper ever again? We need to be aware that what's coming is going to make COVID look like nothing. COVID is going to be easy compared to what we have to deal with, and it's coming. Now, that may be this year, maybe next, but it'll happen in our lifetime. And I know it's hard. I know it's not easy. I know that these things are commonly talked about, and people like to say them to get clicks. And it's hard to know what's true and what isn't. But we need to stick together, and there needs to be people who come together and provide a community and be ready to start the new America, to start whatever it is, and be ready to ignite the future. Not in some totalitarian way, not in some fascist way or communist way, but an American way. And I don't, honestly, we may or may not have anything that we can do about it. Maybe it's going to happen whether we like it or not. I do know that when government and banks and these people come together and they've been working on a digital currency and they put a lot of work into it, I feel pretty good to say they're not just going to be like, we don't need that thing. We spent all that time and money on it and a lot of energy and a lot of excitement about it. Let's just stop. They're not going to do that. They're not. We're going to see it one way or another, whether we like it or not. And so we have to be prepared for the life after. And we're quickly getting into the territory where either you're part of society and you're going to contribute to being chipped, you're going to contribute into whatever the currency system, or you're not. And our country and our planet is going to go through 100 years of hell. But maybe that's what we have to do to realize the errors of our ways. I don't know. And so what is it going to look like when we roll out, this new digital currency or Great Reset or whatever ends up getting rolled out once we're all afraid? Well, they're not just going to do it overnight. Do you guys remember with COVID? I mean, we kind of ran into a situation where everybody suddenly was afraid. Like, it's making its way over to, from China and from other different countries, and it's made it to the United States. And of course, I'm in the Midwest, and so we're like, okay, well, it's going to take a little while to get here. But people are still freaking out. I'm like, well, it's going to take a while. It's not just going to get here immediately overnight. There's no turning back. And that was one of the hardest parts during COVID, is that there was no turning back from a virus sweeping across the world. Once it's here, once it's made land, once it's made its way onto our soil and to our people, it was just going to be a matter of time. And when something bad is about to happen and you know it's about to happen, the last thing you want to do is to try to avoid it. And that's what we try to do during COVID, is we tried to avoid it. We knew it was going to happen, and we try to flee in fear. We let fear overtake us. Now, fortunately, the government at that time didn't decide to go full fascist on us. And, for whatever reason, that didn't happen. Now, it kind of happened on a state-by-state basis, but not from a federal government standpoint. And so what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? We've seen all these points, all these fear points that suggest that something bad is about to happen. These are tremors. And so just be prepared. Make sure you have all the resources you need. And don't just get enough for you or enough for your family. Make sure you remember there's going to be people everywhere who's going to be afraid. And the more we can show love and show joy with the people that are around us, the more we can rebuild our country, and the more that we can be prepared and weather any sort of storm that happens. And because that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a storm. It might be a World War III storm, but it's going to be a storm, and we can weather it. We can make it through, because we always do that. We've done it in the past, and we can do it again. Now, there are going to be people out there who are going to be afraid, and instead of weathering the storm, they're going to try to take advantage of it. You need to be prepared for that too, which is why being grouped in numbers is so important. Be in a group, be prepared, and be ready. Because when the aftershock becomes the real shock, real crap is going to happen.